Giles on defense along with Hartsburg, who owns the puck here. Broughton, bumped by Bergevin, chasing his own pass. Troy Murray cutting in. He shoots. Oh, he scored! Steve Larmer was there. Beaupre made the initial save.
And then actually hooked the puck into the net himself, pulling his stick back.
The Hawks have outshot Minnesota 7-3. Now Bergevin and Flett get into it at the penalty bench, and play is stopped. Bergevin and Willie Flett.
Bergevin got Willie Plett's sweater over his head when the whole thing started, and it kind of puts you at a disadvantage when you can't see what you're punching at. But believe it or not, I've seen guys do pretty well in fights even with their sweaters over their heads. You can still see Willie with his sweater over his head.
Little late shot there from Willie Flett. Well, Bergevin and Flett are broken up. Hawks lead by a goal. It's 1-0 Chicago.
Willie's kind of a dinosaur by NHL standards. He's a big, slow guy that really doesn't fit into the new hockey player of today, who is usually more offensive-minded, but he has that mean streak in him that Lou Nanne wanted to try and offset some of the lack of it that they had with the Minnesota North Stars.
Hawks 1-0. Minnesota changing lines, and that left Bellows all alone, and finally the puck held for a faceoff.
With big Ben Wilson muscling Brian Bellows along the boards, and if anybody can throw his weight around when he decides to, it's Ben Wilson.
This game has been rather conservative for these two teams. He's got Graham with him and McKegney. Here's Graham. And Bannerman makes the save. And that one from Dirk Graham almost beat Murray Bannerman. Now Keith Acton mixing it up.
And you can see at the top of your screen Ben Wilson grabbing Ed Hospodar right at the top of your screen. Those are the two tough guys on the ice right now.
Acton getting together initially with Jerome Dupont, and Dupont, a player, number 25, who is prone to mix it up from time to time.
They have to watch out for the diagonal pass going through the box, as Savard just did. That's what they have to guard against. If they can keep them on the outside, they can kill this penalty.
That's a typical play the Hawks use to get the puck to Steve Larmer. Deflection, they score! In front, Dennis Savard. Oh, what a play!
Well, I think Don Beaupre is arguing that Savard may have directed the puck in with his skate. We'll take a look at it. Denny Savard is in front with Kurt Giles in the center of your screen, and I think Keith Brown, well, it almost looked as if Denny Savard actually did not kick it in, but angled it into the net. And if you change the direction of the puck with your skate with the intention of scoring, it should be disallowed. But it's a tough play to call. It happened so quickly. I think Keith Brown surprised everybody by slipping that through. I don't think anybody expected him to slip it through to him.
Very much a discretion judgment call for the referee, Kerry Fraser. At the time, Savard was being knocked off stride, moving his skate.
He was, but here comes the puck.
It hit him in the boot. No question.
It hit him in the boot, but when somebody is wrestling with you like that, Kerry Fraser would have to have a lot of guts to disallow that goal.
This is Bellows driving the puck in. Payne skating in, bumped by Brown, and a nice back check by Rick Patterson, who's one of the better defensive wingers in the league. Brown will pick up a charging penalty. Dirk Graham takes exception. Payne steps in, and there was no hesitation on Kerry Fraser's part, and it will be a charging penalty. In front, the deflection. Bukestad couldn't get it in the first time, but he does on the second effort. And Scott Bukestad now has 16 goals in his last 14 games, and it is 2-1 Chicago.
Just terrific in there on a couple of saves just in the last couple of minutes.
Terrific describes this man, Savard. 12 seconds to go in the period. And that's a bit of a dive, and Savard is one of the best in the league at that.
Huge catching mid, and it seemed as if he covered almost the whole net. It was like the refrigerator in there.
Langevin knocked down by Brown. Broughton up front, centering Bukestad and Cicerelli at one point. Nielsen, he has the puck. Hartsburg's at the other point. Here's Kent Nielsen, the shifty playmaker. His shot, Bannerman the save, and they score. Cicerelli was right out in front. I'm not sure if it went in off Cicerelli or it was initially Nielsen's shot, but it's tied at 2.
Here's a look at it from overhead. Nielsen sees Cicerelli right in the middle of your screen now, and trust me when I tell you that Ken Nielsen was not shooting the puck on goal. He was shooting the puck on Dino Cicerelli's stick.
Jim Kelly was asking earlier about the fact that you, Bill Clement, had something to do with the fact that Willie Plett does not currently wear a helmet.
I played with Willie Ken in Calgary, and Willie decided to wear a helmet one season, and having watched him play with the helmet, I mentioned to him one day that I thought he might lengthen his career if he didn't wear the helmet because of his fan appeal. He's blonde hair and he's out there, and it's so much easier for the fans to identify with a player that does not wear a helmet. Sure enough, he took off the helmet and he's lengthened out his career. You can see him sitting there, and that blonde hair is attractive to people in Minnesota. Believe me, the people on the road, though, in this Chicago stadium don't like Willie Plett too much.
Ed Olczyk leads the charge for Chicago. Now the Hawks changing lines. Over to Steve Larmer. He can put it in. He scores! Steve Larmer, what a shot! And Langevin stands in the way. Savard steals the puck, winding up at center ice. Denny Savard, 1 move, 2 moves, 3 moves. He scores!
Well, if you thought Steve Larmer's goal was brilliant, watch this goal. Denny Savard tiptoes through everyone, pulls the puck to his backhand. Virtually impossible for most players even to execute. Here it is from another angle. He moves in front to the backhand the way Larmer did and kicks that far corner.
4-2 Blackhawks. Third period. Watson has Presley with him. Nice feed. Second chance. He scores! Wayne Presley. Secord and Cicerelli. Steve Larmer hit by Hospodar. Now Secord and Hospodar as O'Callaghan drills it, and Hartsburg deflects the puck wide. The Hawks dangerous here. Hartsburg and Secord bumping. Play comes to center ice. And Doug Wilson with a puck. Oh, you can just feel the little edge now. Secord had lost his glove, was caught well offside. Things are still hot and heavy at the stadium where Chicago leads Minnesota 5-2. Bill Clement, I mentioned things were still hot and heavy.
Well, you'd mentioned, Ken, that as we look at a replay, you can see that Al Secord is cut in the nose. You mentioned that he had lost his glove, and here's Hospodar taking exception to Al Secord. What had happened down in the corner was that Secord dropped both of his gloves and grabbed Craig Hartsburg from behind, and at the last minute decided not to throw a punch because Hartsburg was turned around with his back to him, simply let him go, picked up his gloves, and came back into the play. That's when he ran into Ed Hospodar, who was standing at center ice.
7:42 to go. Third period. Hawks 5, North Stars 2. And as you hockey players say, it's a long way from the heart.
It's a long way from the heart, and interesting to see Denny Savard helping out his buddy Al Secord. They've played on a line together on and off for the last few years, and you got to imagine they're pretty close. Denny Savard was sitting there in a kind of a warm gesture, taking a piece of cotton or a piece of gauze and actually wiping down Al Secord's face. That tells you how close those two are.
North Stars clear the zone. Blackhawks back at full strength. 5:08 remaining. Third period. Troy Murray's shot goes wide, comes in front. Brown shoots and scores! Keith Brown!
I would have said, had I had a chance, as you see Willie Plett try and decapitate Ken Yaremchuk, I would have said that no, they are concentrating so hard on trying to come back that you probably won't see them getting chippy because the game is not gone. You just saw an example of what happens when the game is gone. Now it's 6-2. Willie Plett's frustrations came out in the form of an emergency decapitation, unauthorized at that.
15:52, 2 minutes for high sticking. That's the polite way to describe it. There'll be a penalty coming up here to Minnesota as Secord was mixing it up in front with Chris Pryor. Bannerman goes to the bench, and finally the penalty is called. And Secord just kind of swarming around. And the North Stars very much frustrated. They had won 5 in a row coming in.
Here's a look at it. Al Secord moving in front to screen. Oh, it's It's Beaupre that takes the poke at him. And I think Al Secord misread who it was coming from. And I'll tell you what.
I'm not so sure. I think he's sort of saying, give me a minute here. I've got other business now.
Yeah, exactly. He's moving in now to Beaupre.
Now live, Beaupre and Secord having words. And, of course, Beaupre, as was so well pointed out earlier, is giving 60 pounds to Al Secord. And that's a mismatch, a lightweight against a heavyweight.
Oh, but he's got a mask on.
And 100 pounds of pads.
Some advantage when you're 150 pounds.
Those goalkeepers love to protect their home. That time Secord really wasn't right in the crease.
No, he wasn't dangerous at all, but that was just a perfect example. Well, Beaupre's actually out of the game, which is an indication that Fraser has assessed an intent to injure penalty and is asking that Beaupre be ejected of the game. He's gone as you saw him going down the stairs, and that tells you how frustrated he was.
That'll bring out John Casey, who has played very well lately for Minnesota. A youngster who played a couple of games with him 2 years ago and is out of the University of North Dakota in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. Beaupre here at 16-11. Just seconds after Plett's 2-minute high sticking penalty, gets a 2-minute slashing penalty and a game misconduct. Keep in mind, Keith Acton was ejected for spearing in the first period.
Here's a look at it again. Beaupre from left field. If anybody wonders what the definition of slashing is, you just saw a perfect example of it.